Hi everyone, thank you for joining our webinar today. My name is Andrew Hill and I'm a part of the Sky Enterprise team. So today our webinar is going to focus around really how you can go about getting Sky Enterprise set up in your environment and all the kind of tools and knowledge that you'll need to do that. So let's start off by having a look at what we're going to cover today in the agenda. So we'll start off with a quick overview and a quick kind of demonstration, and then we'll talk about which devices are supported in Sky Enterprise, how you can go about getting an account, and then how you activate your account and then start using the product. So we'll look at basic things like adding sites and adding users. We'll show you how you can bring on your existing Juniper devices, and we'll also show you how you can use zero-touch provisioning to quickly and easily configure new devices straight from the factory. And then we'll finish off by giving you an overview of some new features that we've just deployed and some that we are currently working on. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Sky Enterprise, basically it's a cloud-based management tool for Junos devices. So Junos devices connect to Sky Enterprise, and then we present a really simple to use user interface that allows you to get visibility and control of your network environment. Now, Sky Enterprise is ideal for engineers who have no prior Junos experience, and the platform is delivered as a service, so there's nothing to install or maintain. It is very simple to get a network connected up to Sky Enterprise, so there's no professional services required, and once it's connected you can start using it immediately. We support a range of devices, so we're going to talk about that a bit later. We've recently added the Wi-Fi, SRX WiFi MPIM card support, and of course we have multi-tenancy and role-based access. I thought we'd start off with a quick overview demonstration to show you some of the key capabilities of Sky Enterprise. So moving to the login screen, I'm going to log into an existing tenant, and as you can see I've got two-factor authentication, so I'll add my authentication in there. And now I've been logged in. So as we log in, we get to the site's dashboard view, and we can see that we have a number of sites around the world, two in the US, one in Cape Town, one in South Africa, and here our sites are listed and the addresses over here. So I can use this dashboard to drill down. Here's my Cape Town view, and if I click on here I can dive straight in and have a look at the devices that are connected in Cape Town. So here we can see we have a VSRX and an SRX 300. We can see the IP address of the network they're connecting from and the device's IP address here, and we can see the status is online and the last time it connected, and this device is sending us syslog messages which we use for enhanced reporting. Up above I have a number of options for changing the display. I can download a real-time CSV file that contains all the information about my devices, kind of like an asset report. And here I have the option of adding tags to devices. So I can select this device here, and for instance if this was kind of our southern region, I can add a tag of southern to this device, and there you can see that tag. So I can use that tag later on for grouping devices or doing updates to certain devices with specific tags. So looking around the dashboard here, we've got the devices view, we've also got a topology view, and this shows us a real-time topology view of our devices, and we use LLDP for assembling this. So I can click on a existing device, I get some details about that device. I've got information about the types of links that we have here. I can change my topology view based on the office location, the site location, and I can also jump into graphs on a per interface basis. Sky Enterprise supports a number of Wi-Fi options. For instance, this one here is the support for the SRX WiFi MPIM card that can be inserted into an SRX 320, 340, 345. And here we can see a live one. We've got a single AP. It's got a number of SSIDs across a range of radio frequencies and channels. And down below we can see the devices that are connected to that access point. So moving back to the devices view, I'll take off my Cape Town search bar here so that I can see all my devices. And here I have a complete list of the devices that are connected in my environment. So if we take a closer look at those devices, here in the action menu we've got a range of features that we can use for configuration, monitoring and reporting. So in this device, for instance, we've got security, and I can manage policies, zones, NAT, VPNs, UTM, etc. So let's dive into security policies. Now when you see this communicating message, that is Sky Enterprise going to the device and gathering the security policy information in real time. Sky Enterprise always treats the device as master, and we do that so that the device can be managed and configured by any other means in parallel with Sky Enterprise. So if you prefer to use CLI, or if you've got Ansible tools or other management tools, Sky Enterprise will work with those. And here we've got a number of zones and policies, and we can create new policies by clicking the new button here. We can reorder policies by simply dragging and dropping those policies, and we can edit policies or clone them using the action menu here, and we'll display it to us here. So here we have a policy called block HTTPS, and it shows you that it's from untrust to trust, from any to any, and the applications it's blocking are Junos HTTPS. It's set to deny, and we've got a number of logging options, and we can also add UTM policies, etc. So for instance, if we now want to add HTTP to that list, we can do that, and by clicking on Save Device Policy, Sky Enterprise is now packaging up that config change. It goes to the device, checks it's not in configuration use, blocks it, applies the configuration change, and unlocks it, and will come back once the commit is done with a success or failure message. So that change has now been committed. And we can see that the application that's being blocked has been added to this list here. Now let's take a look at interfaces on this device. So managing an EX would be very similar, all the kind of similar commands. And again, Sky Enterprise is grabbing that information in real time, and now it's presented it to us. So here we can see all the interfaces, their connected status, enabled status, and we can use the menu to edit that interface, to bounce it, or view graphs. And similarly with logical interfaces, we can do the same, we can delete it. We can also use this show option up here to view the Ethernet switch table, or other, the LLDP table, for instance, to see what is connected to this device. We also have options for managing VLANs, ranges, and spanning tree. Now looking at the system and monitoring section, here we're presented with real-time graphs for the device. This includes CPU, memory, and temperature, as well as security sessions. We also have interface graphs, and for devices running App ID, we also present the application data that's traversing those interfaces. In commits, we're able to see the commit history of the device. So if I look at this most recent commit, we can see the change I made, which was to add HTTP to that security policy. We also have the option of doing rollbacks and comparing commits to commit 0. Sky Enterprise backs up the config every time it detects there's been a change, and we can use this to download the config or compare it to previous versions where the changes are highlighted to make it easy to see what's changed. We have a number of other features for licenses, alarms, actions, diagnostics, RPM probes. Let's have a look at actions. These are things that administrators do quite frequently that we've built into an easy-to-use button that you can apply those actions to devices. We also have various reboot options, system cleanup, DHCP, lease renewal. Just nice to have things that make life easier. Now, Sky Enterprise is a great tool for people who might not be that familiar with Junos, but a lot of engineers who are comfortable with Junos like to use CLI, and this feature here makes that really easy to do via a browser. So to use the Junos CLI feature, you must be an administrator and you must have two-factor authentication enabled. So I have both of those. I can click on this, and from my browser I now have CLI access to the device as if I was plugged into the console cable. So as you can see, I can go into configure mode, I can show VLANs, I can do anything that I wanted on the console, and by exiting I'm coming back out. So that's a brief overview of some of the features that you can use for monitoring and configuring. In this section here, we have a number of tools that can be applied across a range of devices. So starting with bulk updates, as the name suggests, this is a tool where you can select multiple devices, either on an individual device basis or a site basis, or using those tags. And we select a number of devices, and then we can either use set commands or Junos config to apply config to a device. So for instance, I can do a name server update to all those devices, and if I click update, that command will be applied to those devices immediately. I can also schedule that command for some time in the future. And if I click that, it'll be queued. The other thing we can do is use more advanced templates to configure lots of devices. So if we go into the advanced section, and we can choose a template that we've created earlier, and if we go into a table view, we can see that for each of the devices that we've selected, we can add in a different DNS server as we need, and then if we click update, that change will proceed. So here it's saying that this will be a schedule change and it'll run at 7 AM on the 12th of March. Okay, so that's a brief overview of Sky Enterprise. So with that, let's go back and let's log out here first. Let's go back to our slides and go from there. What I want to do now is take a step back and have a look at some fundamental things about the platform. So I want to start off with how devices actually connect to Sky Enterprise and remain connected. So I've got this scenario here where we have an administrator, and that administrator is logged into Sky Enterprise. And the administrator clicks Add a Device and puts in the device name, and Sky Enterprise then generates a unique configlet, so 8 or 10 lines of Junos config, unique for that device, which the administrator then places on the device by logging into the device through command line, pasting in the configlet, and then committing that change. So once that change is committed, it invokes a Junos component called outbound SSH, and the configlet instructs the device to call home to Sky Enterprise to be managed. So because it's calling out, there's no need for any NAT rules or typically no firewall changes. The device will be able to reach the internet and call out to Sky Enterprise. When Sky Enterprise sees that connection coming in from the new device, it recognizes it, or it authenticates it, and then it establishes an API connection back down to that device over that SSH channel and authenticates to the device, so it's double authenticated. Now, once that second authentication has occurred, there is now a persistent tunnel between the device and Sky Enterprise, and effectively the administrator can now view and manage that device in Sky Enterprise. Now moving on, let's take a look at which devices are supported by Sky Enterprise and which versions of Junos are supported on those devices. So it's a fairly simple table. Basically, all SRX devices, right from legacy SRX 100s through to SRX 5800s, are all supported in Sky Enterprise. Likewise, all legacy and new EX devices are supported. We currently support all QFX devices, and we also support the NFX 150 and 250 devices. And when it comes to Junos support, we support a wide range of Junos versions across these devices. Now the next area we're going to look at is the ordering details for Sky Enterprise. How do you actually place an order? So Sky Enterprise is divided into 3 groups, the subscriptions, and we have group A, B and C, which roughly translate to small, medium and large devices. And in each of those groups you can purchase a 1, 3 or 5 year subscription. And looking at the devices that are part of small, medium and large, we can see that the EX22, 23, 33 and 34 are all small devices. Likewise with the SRX 100s, 200s and 300s. And then across the range, as the devices get bigger and bigger, they move into the medium and the large. I will also note that the SRX Wi-Fi MPIM card, there's no license required for that. So in this section I want to talk about how you actually get an account on Sky Enterprise, and then once you've placed an order, how you activate your license. So we have a lot of people who first want to try the platform, and we have a 30-day free trial available for that purpose. So this is available to all partners and customers, and you can simply request a 30-day free trial by going to the Juniper web page for Sky Enterprise free trial. The URL is there. If you can't remember the URL, just do Sky Enterprise free trial Google search and that'll come up. So fill out the trial, and within normally 24 to 48 hours you will receive an activation email. For the Juniper staff who are on the call, you can also get a demo account by sending an email to skyant-trial@juniper.net. Okay, so let's say you've now made a purchase of Sky Enterprise and you want to get your licenses activated. So by making a purchase, Juniper will then send you a software serial number certificate with specific details and an activation code for that order. Once you have that certificate, your next step is to go to the Juniper Agile Licensing Platform, or GEL. Create an account in there if you don't already have one, and then activate your Sky Enterprise license through that portal. Once you do that, the Sky Enterprise team automatically gets notified that a license has been activated, and they will create a new account for you if you're a new customer, or if you're a trial customer, they will move your trial account and change that to a customer account. When you first get a Sky Enterprise account, you will receive an activation email that looks a bit like the one you see here. So in order to use this activation, simply click on the blue box, which will take you to Sky Enterprise, and there you will be able to put in a unique password, log in, and start using the platform immediately. So what we're going to do now is log into a brand new account in a blank environment in Sky Enterprise, and we're going to take you through the simple steps for adding devices, adding sites, adding users, and getting your environment underway. Okay, so here we are logging into our blank environment, and we can see that we've got a default site set up. And if we go to the Devices tab, you can see there's no devices. There's some menu items to add users and devices, some helpful articles and videos. And now we click on Add Device. So to add a device, we simply add the name, the host name of that device, and then we select the category. So this is a firewall, and once we've done that, we click Create Device. Now we're going to add an existing brownfield device to our Sky Enterprise environment, and Sky Enterprise has created a unique configlet. So we're going to grab that configlet and use that to put on our device to enable it to connect up to Sky Enterprise. So here's the device. It's currently offline, and we're now going to jump over to terminal session and on that device. So we're going to configure mode, and then simply paste that config onto the device, and off we go. So there you can see that configlet that we grabbed, and it is now on the device. So our next step is simply to do a commit and quit, and then we're done. Whoops. Let me try that again. Okay, and that has now been committed. So from there we go back to our Sky Enterprise environment, and now it's simply a matter of waiting 10, 15, 20 seconds while that device makes a outbound call back to Sky Enterprise and connects up and appears on as online in our dashboard. So just to speed that up, let's do a quick refresh on the screen, and there we have it. So our device is now online, and you can see the connect time, you can see the IP address, you can see the device model, And now we're ready to manage that device, and all its existing config that was on will be there because the device is the master source of data. So from there we can go back to our sites view and we can start adding in all our branch and office sites. So click the add site button and simply add in the name of the site, and then using Google Maps integration we pick an address that we want to assign to the site, and we can also pick the device that we just added. So now we have a new site called Melbourne, and let's say we wanted to add a second site, so we do the same thing, and now we have a third site called Perth with no devices connected. Now the next way to add devices is with zero-touch provisioning. So we start the same process for adding a device and give the device a name, select the category, and then we pick the ZTP option, and for zero-touch provisioning we need to put the device's serial number in, and then we select a template, the configuration template. This is a simple template with just one variable, but they can be as complex as you need them to be. The other thing we're going to do is look at optional fields, and here we have a number of optional fields, and we're going to add this device directly to Perth. So we click create, and the device has now been created in Sky Enterprise, and essentially we are waiting for that new device to be plugged into a network and to call home to Sky Enterprise. And once it calls home, the administrator will be sent an email to say that the device is trying to connect, and they will have the option of authorizing that device connection. So here, looking in the ZTP section, we can see that our device is in a pending state, and once it starts calling home, that'll change to authorization required, and we can simply click the link in the email that is sent to us, or come here to the ZTP screen to add that device. So next we're going to add another user, and we do this by simply typing in the user's email address, and then from there selecting the role that we want to give them, whether it's an admin who can create and delete devices, whether it's just a user who can configure devices, or whether it's read-only, someone who can just view devices. Once we create the account, that user is sent an activation email like the one we saw earlier, and they can activate and then get access to the platform directly. So lastly, we're going to have a look at how you enable multi-tenancy. So in the settings, we can click the enable multi-tenancy option, and then we update our settings. And now when we return back to the dashboard, we'll see that there's an extra tab in our list. So we now have a tenants tab, and by clicking on that, we have the option to create a new tenant. So this is a new company below our existing company, where we can, which we can use to segregate networks or to provide managed service to our customers. So basically, we add in a company name and an email, and then we click add organization, and that generates a brand new company below ours. So as you can see, we now have a new tenant, and from there we can go through and add devices, and we can add new users. So we can give the customer, if it's an MSP environment, we can give them a user account on the platform, and for instance, we could make them read-only so they can view their devices, their managed devices, but not configure them. Okay, so that's a brief overview of how to set up a new environment. As you can see, it's very simple, it's very quick to add existing devices, and it's very easy to add new devices using zero-touch provisioning. So now we're going to jump back to our slides, a few slides to finish off, and then we're going to hang around for questions afterwards. Okay, so looking at new features, last week we launched our first localization language. So Sky Enterprise has been in English since the beginning, but as of last week we have added a Japanese language option to Sky Enterprise. So that can be selected from the top right hand side of the menu, and it currently covers key headings and the important menu options. Okay, in terms of what's coming up in Sky Enterprise, for a while now we've been working on a change to the way we do software updates. So the current method requires the user to host images for Junos devices and then use the software update feature in Sky Enterprise to point to that image so the device can go and collect it. Now, in the coming month or two, we're going to be releasing a brand new software update feature where Sky Enterprise hosts all the images. So it's going to be a lot easier, a lot quicker, a lot more reliable, and just much simpler. So look out for that feature in coming releases. The main thing our development team has been working on for quite some time is our simple SD-WAN feature, and we're expecting that to be in beta sometime in the first half of this year. So what this feature does is allow you to take a new SRX, plug it in, and then use Sky Enterprise's new SD-WAN workflow to configure that device up as a new branch site with all its LAN and WAN details, with application routing, and then from there Sky Enterprise will deploy the device by installing App ID licenses, installing databases, building the entire configuration, creating the VPNs back to the hub site, and bringing it up as an operational SD-WAN node. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your time. It's been great taking you through this. We are going to stand by online, so if you want to use the Q&A box, please post any questions that you have in there. We'll stay online and answer them for as long as it takes. And if you don't already have a trial for Sky Enterprise, please register for one, and it would be our pleasure to set you up and get you up and running. So thanks again for your time, and let us know in the chat box if you have any questions. Thank you.